Hey there, let's get right into it. Today, we're going to talk about a framework that might just completely change how you look at yourself, especially when you're struggling. It's called the Biopsychosocial-Spiritual model, and it's all about understanding what it means to be a whole person from a Christian point of view. So if you've ever wrestled with anxiety or depression, or just that feeling of being stuck emotionally, you've probably been given one of two answers. And let's be honest, it can be so frustrating. On one side, you have the medical world, right? They'll say, oh, it's just your brain chemistry. Then on the other side, you might have well-meaning people from your church saying, well, maybe it's a faith issue. You just need to pray harder. Both of those answers can just leave you feeling completely alone and misunderstood. But here's the thing. What if both of those answers are, well, not wrong, but just incomplete? What if they're only looking at one little piece of a much, much bigger puzzle that makes up you? This is exactly where a more holistic approach comes into play. We're going to introduce the biopsychosocial-spiritual model, which gives us a much better, more complete map for healing the whole person. So what is this thing exactly? Well, it takes the standard framework used in medicine, the biopsychosocial one, and it adds this absolutely critical fourth dimension, the spiritual. It basically says, hey, you are a complex being, and to find real healing, we've got to look at all four of these interconnected parts of your life. All right, so let's actually break down what those four pillars are. Once you get a handle on each part, you can start to see how they all dance together to make you who you are. Okay, so this model helps organize all our complexity into four buckets. First up is bio, that's your body. Everything from your genetics and brain chemistry to how much you slept last night and what you had for lunch. Then there's psycho. This is your inner world, your thoughts, your feelings, your coping skills, and any trauma you've been through. Next is social. That's all about your relationships, your family, your community, and your support system. And finally, the one that's so often left out, spiritual. This is your soul, your relationship with God, your faith, and your deep sense of meaning and purpose. But here's where the real power of this model kicks in. It's not just about listing the parts. It's about understanding that they are all deeply and dynamically connected. You can't poke one area without it sending ripples through all the others. Let me give you a really practical example. Okay, let's say you've been sleeping terribly for weeks. That's a bio problem, right? It's happening in your physical body. But think about it. When you're just exhausted, physically drained, it becomes incredibly hard to pray, to focus on scripture, or to even feel like God is near. Your biological state is now directly affecting your spiritual life. And if that goes on long enough, that inability to connect can turn into real spiritual doubt. See? A simple bio issue, not enough sleep, just created a full-blown spiritual crisis. They're not separate things. Okay, let's try another one, starting from a totally different pillar. Imagine you're in a toxic relationship, whether it's with a friend or family member. That's a social problem. So all that criticism and negativity from that relationship, it starts to seep into your own mind. You start hearing their voice in your own head, and it becomes this harsh, negative self-talk. The social problem has now become a psycho problem. And that relentless cycle of beating yourself up mentally, well, that is a well-known path straight into depression. It just goes to show you your relationships have a direct phone line to your mental and emotional well-being. You know, this idea of being a whole person isn't some new agey concept. It's deeply, deeply biblical. Look at what Paul says here in 1 Thessalonians. He's praying for the entire person, spirit, soul, and body. Scripture treats us as integrated beings, not as a bunch of separate, disconnected parts. So how can you actually use this in your own life? Well, here's the really cool part. This model isn't just theory. It's a practical diagnostic tool that you can pull out anytime you feel anxious, overwhelmed, or just off. So when you're feeling that way, you can just walk yourself through these four quick check-ins. First, the BIO check. Simply ask, have I slept? Have I eaten anything decent? Have I moved my body at all? Seriously, sometimes the fix starts with a nap and a sandwich. Second, the psycho check. What's the thought that's driving this feeling? Try to name it. Pinpointing the thought is the first step to robbing it of its power. Third, the social check. Do I need to draw a line with someone, or do I need to reach out for help? Our relationships can be drains, or they can be fuel. Figure out what you need. And finally, the spiritual check. What truth do I need to grab onto right now? This connects you back to your ultimate source of hope, reminding you of what's true when your feelings are screaming lie. And really, that's the big takeaway here.
True, lasting healing is almost never a single fix. It's not just a new pill or just praying more or just ending one friendship. It is a holistic process. It's about gently tending to your body, your mind, your relationships, and your soul all at the same time.
So that brings us to the last and maybe the most important question. Just for you, as you think about these 4 areas of your life, bio, psycho, social, and spiritual, which one is kind of waving its hand, asking for a little more of your attention today? Answering that question for yourself, well, that's the first step toward a healthier, more whole you.